So, Shannon, will Antonio Brown be the undoing of the Bucs?
Skip, bringing AB in was always going to be a risk to the wide receiver room. Mike Evans is already feeling that he's not getting fed enough, so you bring another mouth in to feed, he's going to get even less food to eat. And so he's not pleased about that. I don't give a damn what that wide receiver coach says. I'm telling you how wide receivers think, Skip, how they're wired. Because as Jenny read, now, Skip, here's the thing. Jenny said he's getting 16% of the targets. That's fine if that was number one on his team. That's not even number one on his team. He's getting the 12th fewest targets of anybody in the NFL that's qualified with the number of routes that they run. So he's not pleased with that. Jenny read, he's a 3-time Pro Bowl player. And at the beginning of the season, if somebody would said, I give you Stephon Diggs or I give you Mike Evans, more times than not, they're going to take Mike Evans. Stephon Diggs leads the NFL in targets with 91. He has 39 more than Mike Evans. Mike Evans isn't pleased about that, but I already see what the narrative is. They tried to blame this on AB already. I'm not going to let y'all do that. I'm not going to let, because if the Bucs don't get to their ultimate destination and win, it's AB's fault. Well, when they lost to New Orleans the first game, was that AB's fault? When they lost to Chicago, was that AB's fault? Hell, he wasn't even eligible to play. And y'all want to flip that and blame that on AB.
Don't y'all me.
Yeah, you.
I didn't say it. I didn't say a word about that.
Yeah, you did. You part of it. Skip, look. Receivers feel, especially the really good ones, feel that, yes, they all want the ball, but they feel that they can do things with the ball that the other guys can't. And so Mike Evans says, okay, give me an opportunity. But what they've done, Skip, while they've decreased his targets, he has 6 touchdowns on 9 red zone targets. So there's like, okay, we're trying to appease him on this one end while we're taking away from him on the other end. And Mike isn't happy about that. But Mike had to know this was going to happen. You can't have too many cooks in the kitchen. Somebody's going to step on somebody. Somebody's going to add an ingredient. Somebody's going to take something out, or somebody's going to forget to put something in. So when you have a Mike Evans, you have a Gronkowski, you have a Chris Godwin, Skip, there's only so many balls. And that's the problem. The receiver said Tom does a great job of spreading it around. Mike Evans like, I don't want it to spread around. I want you to let me eat first as much as I want, and then you spread it around afterwards. Because when they had it last year, Skip, who got the target? It was he and Chris Godwin. Now we got Gronk into the mix. Gronk is an all-century player. He need to get his future. Because remember, Skip, when he wasn't getting the targets, he said, well, I came here to block. I'm fine just blocking. And all of a sudden, Gronk's targets increased. You noticed that, Skip? It sure did.
So did the wins.
Okay, I get that. But Mike Evans says, hold on, guys. I'm a team player, but I need to be the guy that's at the front of the line that's getting these targets. So it could be a problem, but you had to know bringing another mouth to feed when mouths are already saying, I'm going hungry, was going to be a problem. But the narrative that it's AB's fault, no. If they don't get to their ultimate destination, it won't be because of AB. It will be because they weren't good enough as a team. So don't start this narrative about AB, because it ain't AB.
Okay, so I'm going to re-ask Jenny's question. Will AB become the undoing of Brady's Buccaneers?
How?
Well, what do you mean how? I just asked you the question.
No.
You're saying no, so he's a good thing, right?
No, I'm not saying he's a good thing. I'm not saying he's a bad thing. The undoing might be because Tom Brady isn't good enough to get them there. How about that doing?
Okay, so your answer is on AB, you don't have an answer?
I don't have a Skip. You trying to make it. What about if Tom Brady's not good enough? What if Tom Brady plays like he played Sunday night?
Okay, I just want you to answer the question. Will AB be the undoing? I think you're saying he will not be.
No.
You're defending him.
There's nothing to Skip. What the narrative is about AB undoing. What did he undo?
6-2. Went to 6-3 with a disastrous game on Sunday Night Football.
So how did it get them to?
I'm not saying that he was the undoing. I'm just saying that's what just happened.
Yeah.
They were 6-2.
But I want to know where them 2 came from before AB.
Well, 6-2 is really good. It was at the top of the NFC.
First of all, Skip, 6-3 is good. It was just the fact that you had them at probably 8-1.
I did.
Exactly.
Well, in fact, the odds makers had them at that because they were favored to win at Chicago, and they were favored to win Sunday night by, 5.5, 6 points? Okay. So the world thought that. You picked them to win on Sunday night.
But I do not believe AB will be the undoing.
Okay. So here we go. Mike Evans. Question for Mike Evans. And I think he's really a good guy with a good heart. And the saving grace here is I don't think Mike Evans is what I would call a flat-out, all-out diva receiver. I don't get that from him. Does he have some pouty body language? Yeah, he did on Sunday night. I'll give you that. I don't think Chris Godwin is a diva wide receiver. I don't think Gronk has a lot of diva in him. So let's look at what has happened so far to Mike Evans. He leads the team with 52 targets. That's pretty good. He leads the team by far with 34 catches. That's pretty good. He leads the team by far with 437 receiving yards. And he leads the team by far with 7 touchdown catches. The next is 3. Gronk has 3.
Right.
7-3, Mike Evans.
Right.
Mike, question. Do you want targets? Do you want stats? Or do you want rings? Lots of rings from Tom Brady, because he brings rings.
He's looking at us like, why can't I have both?
Okay. He's had his 3 Pro Bowls, and he has no rings. And last year he was 7-9. This man, who has just fallen out of heaven into all of your laps in Tampa Bay, knows how to win rings, because he won 6 in 9 tries and should have won 2 more if not for his coach, Bill Belichick.
Or could have lost 3 more if it wasn't for his coach, Belichick.
Okay, well, we could debate that all day, but I'm going to stand by what I see here. So what do I see that happened on Sunday night? I see that Tom Brady is doing something that my partner across the table cannot see. Tom Brady is trying to run Bruce Arians' offense. My partner says no, he's just trying to run the Tom Brady offense.
No, Skip, that's not what I said. I say the problem that he had is because he's trying to run it. He needs to run his offense, which is nickel and dimes, not the whole dollar.
Okay. So what do we know about Tom Brady so far? My partner says he's lost a lot of arm strength, and that looks like when he's throwing the football, it's like he's trying to shot put it, and it barely sputters across the line of scrimmage every time he tries to throw it. That's what I get from across the table. Am I right about that? Yes, I'm right. So what do we know for sure? What do the stats tell us? Would you believe, ladies and gentlemen, that Tom Brady leads the whole National Football League, every quarterback, in what's called air distance? How far the ball travels from right there, from the time it leaves your hand to the time it hits near the receiver, whether he catches it or not.
Right.
That's called air distance. Tom Brady leads every quarterback in the league with 7,347 yards of air distance. He is throwing bombs away bombs. And my partner yesterday said, well, he just can't throw it long anymore. He can't throw home runs anymore. Well, he does throw lots of deep passes that you're not giving him any credit for. And I thought, just to start this off, we could see just a little quick riff of some of the balls that he has thrown. The first one happens to be to that guy, Mike Evans. This goes for 50 yards. And I'd say that qualifies as a little, that had some oomph on it. That had a little mustard on it. The second one is 48 yards to, guess who? Mike Evans on a deep ball. Nice catch, but again, that's bombs away.
Okay.
And the third one goes to a guy I raved about in the offseason you laughed at all along, and this one goes 47 yards to little Scotty Miller. I'd say that qualifies as a bomb. And the next one goes for 44 yards to little Scotty Miller, and I would say this qualifies as a home run.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And the final one goes for a touchdown to little Scotty Miller. And we all know this one because this was Tom's best throw. It was at the end of the half at Las Vegas. Hit him right on the back line of the end zone for a touchdown. I'd say that looks like a guy who's throwing lots of deep balls. And again, nobody has thrown the ball farther than Tom Brady has so far through the midway point.
And even after all those highlights you've shown, where is he his yard per attempt?
I'm just saying, who's bombs away? Who's thrown the most long balls in the league? This guy has.
Let that sink in. So when you offset it, look where he is in yards per attempt. So Skip just gave you 4 throws where he threw the 5 throws. At least he threw the ball at least 40 yards. And he's still in the bottom 15 as far as yards per attempt. Given that. So what's he doing the rest of the time, what you didn't show?
Okay, so Tom Brady had a big choice to make here at midseason. He's got this team at 6-2, which is spectacular given what he's been up against with no preseason, no OTAs, and a head coach who, frankly, is a liability. He is. He's a liability. BA, as you call him. Bruce Arians. All he does that I know of is he sarcastically rips Tom Brady after losses. That's his contribution so far to this team. And it is offensive to me, and I think it's offensive to Tom Brady, but he's having to rise above that.
Can I ask you a question, Skip? You said that he has this team, had his team at 6-2 before Sunday night. Now, you gave all the blame last year to Coach Belichick for what he didn't have. Okay, Tom Brady overcame that. Now he has the best weapons and all of it, and you still you don't give anybody else any credit.
Okay,
but
so
Tom.
it was really working at 6-2, but Tom said, no, if we're going to go win it all, we got to take it up one more level.
Okay.
I need somebody who can run after catch because he doesn't have another receiver except maybe Scotty Miller, but he's a second-year player who's just trying to find his way into the league right now. But Antonio Brown can run after catch.
Oh, okay.
If you get him in the flow, in the mix, in rhythm of the offense, and get him happy and confident and content in his little role, a smaller role in the offense, you have the ultimate weapon. You have somebody who can be a game breaker. So he said, I'm going to close my eyes, I'm going to bite this bullet, and I'm going to force him in at 6-2. With 2 practices, Antonio Brown basically started the game the other night and played 39 snaps. It's hard because you do have 2 Pro Bowl receivers, and you have the GOAT tight end, and you have a little Scotty Miller who's been a revelation.
Yeah,
this has been his breakout
really well,
season. Yes. And you also added a Leonard Fournette on top of Ronald Jones, who likes to catch it and run with it out of the backfield. So, boy, you got a lot of mouths to feed, as you point out.
Yes.
And maybe the biggest mouth to feed is going to be Antonio Brown's. But it's pay me now or pay me later. Because if you'll pay right now, you won't have to pay later. Because if this thing ever came together and clicked and took off, you would have a juggernaut of offensive talent. But it's hard to throw it together with no preseason and now not much practice for Antonio Brown.
Well,
it's a huge risk because we all know he is the ultimate diva at wide receiver.
Skip, you didn't try to make this in the preseason. You're trying to throw this together in the middle of the season.
That's what I'm saying.
So for what I'm hearing, if this the undoing would be Tom Brady, because he would be the one that requested Antonio Brown's presence.
I don't think he requested. I think he demanded.
Okay, so
Yes.
the undoing of this football team will be because of Tom Brady.
Well, I'm not saying there's any undoing. I just think there's going to be unrest, upheaval for a little while. This game and maybe the game Sunday at Carolina when they're trying to figure it out on the fly. And as you know better than anybody, in this league, at this level, it's very hard to figure it out on the fly. It's happening too fast. So we saw Tom Brady last year force feed Antonio Brown, but where was it? It was in game 2 at Miami when Miami was a just chaotic mess.
They were thinking about tanking for Tua.
They were tanking for Tua. So if we could see that riff of what happened when they just thrust Antonio into the game as a Patriot at Miami, well, this was easy. This is like, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. And he hit him 3 straight times on the first drive, and he was open. And what's the difference? Edelman's a broken down shell of himself on his way to leading the league in drops. Josh Gordon was still there, but as you said, he's running with the proverbial piano on his back, and he's about to be cut by Bill Belichick. That's the touchdown to Antonio that ended the half, basically. And who else is left? There's nobody. And N'Keal Harry was hurt that first half of the year. And the starting tight end that day was Matt Lacoste. Do you know Matt Lacoste? Because not many people do.
Skip, you can target AB like that when you have the weapons out there with him that they are. But when you got Chris Godwin and you got Mike Evans, that's a whole different ballgame.
So what was the recipe for disaster on Sunday night? The pressure Brady felt in the pocket was the worst of the year. It was pretty bad in the opening game at New Orleans.
Chicago was pretty bad.
Chicago was pretty bad, but this was relentlessly bad from the first play of the game. He was pressured on 56% of the snaps, which was the second highest rate of the week in the NFL. Okay, so you're trying to speed read, all these mouths to feed, and you're trying to process in the back of your head, I got to spread the ball. I got to spread the ball. I got to keep everybody happy. So he pulled off. He threw 6 balls to Mike Evans and 6 to Gronk and 6 to Chris Godwin. He threw 5 to AB, and he threw 6 more to Leonard Fournette. Well, I couldn't do that any better. I couldn't just draw it up. I couldn't script it any better than that, except they weren't open. And he was off because he was getting rocked in the pocket. So what do you think's going to happen? 3 points is going to happen. Meanwhile, the defense played even worse than Tom Brady did, and he was awful in the game. The defense was worse.
Right.
Had no hope of stopping Drew Brees. Drew Brees should have scored 5 straight touchdowns. It took a fumble at the 2-yard line by Jared Cook for them to stop them scoring 5 straight touchdowns on 5 straight possessions. Well, it's like the defense is completely overmatched when we thought it was just might have been the best defense in pro football.
Well, I mean, Skip, you're going to have probably, if you're a good defense, I remember when I was with the 2000 Ravens, they had like 2 games in which they played kind of like what Tampa played. Now, we ended up winning one. We ended up beating Jacksonville, I think, 39-36. Jimmy Smith had over 300 receiving yards. Keenan McCardell, I think, was pretty close to 100. So you're going to have one of those games, Skip. You're going to have one or 2 of those games. You just don't want to have it in the playoffs. And so I think that was an anomaly. But as I've said before, I believe the secondary is the weak end. They got to generate pressure, Skip, because they're young. I mean, I think the oldest DB might be 24. So that's a young, and so they're not as tuned as, say, a veteran of Pat Peterson, Jalen Ramsey, things of that nature. So they will get better. The question is that can Tom keep everybody happy? I mean, it might be game, Skip, where, Mike, you're going to get 10 targets this game, but you might only get 4 or 5. They're going to have a conversation with Mike Evans. Mike Evans sees himself as a top-tier wide receiver.
Well, he is.
Right.
And I got it. He's proven that.
So, Skip, you can't just throw those guys 3 or 4 balls and say, well, Mike, we winning, and you're going to be happy with that, because that's not how he's wired. That's not how they're wired.
Okay, but how were you wired? When you got to Baltimore, you had to swallow some pride and say, you know what? I've made a bunch of Pro Bowls, but I'm just going to have to accept my fate here.
Let me tell you what happened, Skip. Early in my career, my contributions wasn't by catching the ball. I was blocking and playing special teams. So I saw my value as something more than just catching the football. And so even though I was starting, once the offense, Jim Fossil came in with Wade Phillips and built the offense around me, I saw I can still have value, even though I didn't catch 10 passes, if I had a great block, running back had 100 yards, or if I opened up for other receivers to catch. So I saw my value in other aspects. I'm not so sure these guys, Skip, they only see their values if I get 10 for $1.50 and 2
but Mike Evans was a first-round pick, and you were a seventh-round pick.
Mike Evans was what, the 7th pick in the draft, Skip. So that's him thinking, and my thinking was something entirely different, Skip.
Okay, but he should take a cue from you and look at what happened to your career arc. And you did, by the way, wind up in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
But you went to Baltimore and you became big play Shea because you were just 1 play a game.
Right.
Maybe 2, but mostly 1 in the playoffs.
Skip, I knew early on that what I was in Denver, because the offense wasn't like that in Baltimore, so me having those big 100-plus yard receiving days was going to be far and few between. So what I needed to do, that when I got the opportunity, just cash in. So, a lot of times we'd be in the huddle, and, I know they were going to double me because they didn't respect our other receivers. I was like, okay, Q, it's time. Conjure me. I'll say, it's time for you to make a play now. He's like, okay, I got you. Like Jermaine Lewis, I'm going to get on my horses. I say, I'm going to pull the safety. You just get around the corner, and you're going to be wide open. And so it was things of that nature, Skip. I just didn't see my value catching 10 balls for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. And so, yeah. I needed to do other things. Skip, I just hate to say it, and I'm not trying to brag on myself, but the way I saw myself in contributions is not the way these guys see themselves in being able to contribute.
Okay, I got that. But these guys need to grow up and wise up and realize this is the GOAT, albeit at age 43, but he is driven to prove Belichick wrong by winning 1, maybe 2 Super. He's got probably a 3-year window in which he wants to win as quickly as possible.
Right.
And they are going to have to swallow some of their pride and some of their ego, and they're going to have to sacrifice some of their targets and catches for winning. And as you well know, there's nothing in the world like winning an NFL championship.
Nothing. No, it changes your life.
Yeah, just changes everything. So if Mike Evans catches 1 ball a game from here on and they win the Super Bowl, I promise you Mike Evans will look back on this and say, you know what, that was worth it.
Because it goes from, they probably introduced Mike Evans as a 3-time Pro Bowl player. Win the Super Bowl champion, Mike Evans. Skip, that's the way I was. It went from me being a Pro Bowl, All-Pro player, to meet a 2-time, 3-time Super Bowl champ. So now when they don't even mention all that, they mention HOF. So Mike Evans, how do you want? You want Pro Bowls, you want All-Pro, Super Bowls, Hall of Fame. That's the order. So now they don't even mention I won 3 Super Bowls. They don't even mention I went to the Pro Bowl, Skip. All that's inconsequential.
Mike Evans, do you one day want to sit in that seat over there? Have it, maybe.
But that's the thing, though, Skip. But you have to understand what social media has done. There's a poll on every day. Who's the best receiver in football? Who's the best this and that? Who's the best in that? Skip, they see that. They on social media also. And now they're talking about Julio, and they talk about Mike Evans, and they talk about D-Hop. Michael Thomas.
Yes.
And it's like, hold on, what about me? No, you. Now Stephon Diggs is in the mix.
Okay.
So
well,
they
is
see
it not enough, Mike Evans, to be leading your team in every receiving category?
Skip, with 34 catches, that's 34. Skip, that's basically 4 catches a game. He's on for career lows. He's on pace not to get 1,000 yards.
And he has 7 more catches than the next guy on his team's list, who is Rob Gronkowski, the greatest tight end in history.
But Skip, I promise you, Mike Evans is not looking at it like that. He's looking out. Skip, look what D-Hop got. Look what all these top receivers got, how many catches they got, how many yards they got. And he's like, hold on, I'm equal to that, and I got this? 34 little measly catches?
Every guy you just named at the top of that list has 0 rings. Am I right?
You're right.
0 rings. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.